If you have an outlet you want to install somewhere but don't know how to do it, or actually how simple and cheap it is, then you clicked on the right video. So let me show you how easy it is to install an outlet in your wall. So before we dig into this, the first thing I want to say is always check your local electrical codes and make sure you're following everything that the NEC states in the USA. And if you're in other countries or territories, make sure you follow those codes as well. Also, if you feel uncomfortable with this stuff, just contact a licensed electrician and they'll get this job done for you. But with that said, it's always nice to have a little general knowledge of how they can get stuff like this done, so you know that they're not ripping you off and that they're doing a good job. So now that that's all out of the way, let's install the outlet. The first thing installing any outlet is you need to figure out where you're gonna get your power from. In my case, I'm in my laundry room and I got my dryer and my washer pulled out already because I need to get power from the outlet that's under this table where my washer normally sits. And to show you what's going on, there is the main GFI outlet, because it's recommended to have a GFI outlet in your laundry room, at least in my area. And that outlet feeds that outlet down there, and then that outlet feeds nothing else. So essentially I have one 20-amp breaker powering only 2 outlets. So I know that I can easily add another outlet and then have 3 outlets on one 20-amp breaker, which again meets code in my area. So the first step you're gonna do in any electrical projects is cut the power to whatever you're working on. In my case, I just need to turn off one breaker. Power will be cut to the outlets and we'll confirm it with an outlet tester. So now that we're done with my breaker panel, you see I have 2 panels. I have one main panel in the back and a sub panel right here. Which, real quick, if you haven't seen my sub panel install video, make sure to check that out. I got some cool tips and tricks in there to show you how to install one. So in my case, this is my house, so I have everything labeled properly and I know exactly where it's going. But even still, I want to make sure the power's off after I turn the breaker off. So I'll look at my schematic right here, which if you're looking right here, it says washing machine outlet / GFI. It's number 24, and I also have it labeled as 20 amp. Go to my breaker, I'll go down to 24, and I'll turn it off. Now that the breaker's off, let's go confirm the power's off. So I'm going to take my handy dandy outlet tester, which all the links to the products and materials that I use will be listed down below in the description. We're just going to plug this in. No lights are on, it means the power's off, and let's double check that outlet down there as well. No lights are on, check the top one. No lights are on, that means the power's off and we can start working on it. Now I need to squeeze in here. All right, so I made access to my outlet, so I'm going to take it apart and see what we got going on in there. And just like I thought, I only got 1 wire in here. So I know that this is coming from my GFI up top. Also, I was the one that installed this outlet a few years back, so I know how I wired it. Now let's just cut the old wires off the outlet. We will reuse this outlet here, but it's just easier to cut the wires off. Now, in my case, I have an old work box right here, so all I need to do is unscrew these 2 screws and the box will pop out. If you don't have an old work box there, you're probably gonna need to cut the current box in there, whether it be a nailed in box or a screwed in box. Sometimes with the screwed in boxes, you can just unscrew it and it'll slide out as well, but it all depends with what you got. Also, so we don't peel any paint, get a knife out and cut around it. So I got my box popped out. We could leave it hanging just like this, because now we gotta run our wire that's gonna go to our new outlet up into here and hook it into this outlet, because this is where it's going to get its power from. So real quick, before we go downstairs and run that new wire, I want to cut my hole for where I'm going to put my new outlet. And the reason I want to cut the hole before I go downstairs is because once I go downstairs, I want to get most of my work done downstairs. So running that wire up to the old outlet and running that wire up to the new outlet, and then I'll be done, and then I can finish up upstairs. So standard height for an electrical switch off the ground is 48 inches. So I'm going to match that height with this outlet. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to have a vacuum mounted right next to it, and it needs power to charge the batteries on the vacuum. This is also nice for a counter height, such as my GFI on the other side. If you need to iron something or use some sort of steaming unit or something like that in your laundry room, it's nice to have at that height. So I'm going to use my stud finder and a tape measure and mark out where I need to put it. So basically my goal here is to match the outlet I have on the other side of the wall. So that one's 21.5 inches off and 48 inches off the ground. So I'm gonna do the same here, which thankfully with the framing of the house, puts it right in the center of that stud bay. So it should be pretty easy to run the wire to it. Now I'm gonna take my old work box, which what an old work box is in this case, has these little tabs that can hook onto the drywall and essentially go anywhere in your wall. What happens is you stick this in the wall and then you'll screw down the screws and it'll tighten these tabs up against the back side of the drywall, locking the box into place. Also, while we're doing this, it's imperative that we try to keep it level because it'll make it easier down the road. Hold your box in place and trace around it. Now that we got it traced out roughly, we're going to take our level again and kind of roughly mark out Again, trying to maintain our level. Now we're going to cut the box out, and to do that, I'm going to use a multi-tool and I'll hold a vacuum up to collect the dust. And real quick, test fit our box. And that's going to fit in there perfectly. So we do have insulation here and we want to keep that in. We will compress it a bit, but it's the price of doing business. Now we got to run our wires from downstairs to upstairs. So now we're in my basement, which is directly under my laundry room, and we're ready to run that wire. So now I got to pop my ceiling tiles, which if you haven't seen some of my other videos, is a very controversial subject, surprisingly. A lot of people hate the ceiling tiles, calling it ugly, look like a school, look like a business. I love them because I work on my house all the time and it's super easy to just push it up, slide it out of the way and get to work. So for all the haters out there, I just don't think you've ever experienced the joy of a ceiling tile because it's this simple right here. Pop it out just like that. Now that the tiles are popped, we can start running our wire, which I have to go into my utility room a little bit, but that is all exposed ceiling. Run the wire down here and then back up into the other wall. And for those wondering, basically the outlet is right here. I gotta go up where that other yellow wire is going up, and it's gonna come around the wall, down here, and up. If you work on electrical stuff a lot around your house like I do, get you this setup right here, nice big wire spool, and the stands and a pipe. It makes it a whole lot easier running wire. Basically right now I'm just fishing the wire through the other pre-drilled holes. It's a little snug, but it works. Let's go to the other side. So now we're going to use a flex auger bit, which is 3/4 inch in size, and we're going to go up into the stud bay. I've already made my measurement up top of where it needs to be. So I'm going to measure off my plate over here. It doesn't need to be perfect. Sorry, I can't really show you guys that, but there's a hole up there in our stud bay, and we're gonna run a fish up there now. It's that hole right in the center, right over there. So now let me shoot my fish up, and hopefully I ever landed in the right stud bay. So the first thing you're gonna want for doing this is a steel fish tape, and then I like to use a coat hanger to help me grab this fish tape wherever I'm sending it. Let's use my phone and see if I can find it. There it is. So basically you have a hook on the end of a coat hanger. And you're gonna run this in there. And just like that, out. Now we gotta attach our wire to it, pull it up. Now if you had a second fish tape, I'd recommend pulling that one back down and then pulling it up. I don't have a second fish tape, so work with what you got. So we're gonna attach our wire, and we also wanna make sure our wire is gonna get pulled nice and flush and not get snagged on anything. So always make sure to check where your wires ran before you tape it to the fish. Kind of push it up in there. Start it in that hole. And with my fish, I gotta run it out a bit. All right, let's go upstairs and pull it all the way up. This is where it can get a little tricky. Making sure it doesn't get snagged back down going in the hole. Make sure you tape the end of your fish if it has a hook on it, or that's definitely going to get snagged. If you tape it, it should just fall right down. Put a little bend on the wire so it doesn't get snagged. Let's go secure it downstairs. And thankfully that came out nice and easy. So I'm going to secure this wire to this beam up here. And that's really all you can do with how much is in the way. Now let's run the wire up into the other side, put the ceiling tiles back in, and we'll be done. Just like that, they're back in. You would never even know. So let's go finish that wiring. So I got it coming out and down here. It's got to shoot up that hole there, about 2-3 feet. You'll always want to make sure you have excess. Even though you may be wasting a dollar or two here and there, it's a lot better than having to rerun the whole wire. Now I don't think I'm going to need my fish tape to fish this wire up there, because it's just an empty stud bay. There's no insulation or anything, and it's only like 2 or 3 feet off the ground. So let's see if I got it. Let's go see where we're at. That's perfect. Let's go button it up downstairs and finish up here. We got our single wire popping out here for the new outlet we're adding. So let's wire that all in. And real quick, personally, These old work boxes, I like to leave a nice amount of excess for if I need to pull it back out. So don't worry about this excess. I'm not sure the code on it, but from what I've been told, it's fine to leave some excess like this. Let's pop a hole in the back of the outlet. It wasn't supposed to break off like that. There we go. This one didn't break, so let's use that one because it'll hold the wire in place. Slide that wire in. Once the wire slid in, we're going to push that box in. The box is nice and secure, not going anywhere. Now let's strip this outside coating off the wire. So now we got our 3 wires hanging out. We got our hot, which is the black wire, our ground, which is the bare copper wire, and our white, which is the neutral wire. In correlation to the outlet, this bronze lug right here, that's for the hot wire. This white lug right here, or silver lug, that's for the neutral wire. And this green lug, that's for the ground wire. So just hook these 3 wires up directly to the lugs. You also want to leave about 6 inches of pigtail out of the box. That's a good standard. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning, this was a 20 amp outlet, so 20 amp outlet requires 12 gauge wire, which is what the wire I used is, which is normally yellow. 12 gauge wire is a little thicker than standard 14 gauge wire in a house. We're going to cut off about 3/4 of an inch of coating on the wire, and we're going to bend that around on itself to hook into the lug. Same thing for our ground. Now this is really important too. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? So this lug right here is going to turn like this. So we want it to suck that wire into itself. So we need to flip it to hook like this. When we turn it, it'll kind of suck that wire into itself because that's how it's wrapped around it. Now there is a torque spec for this. I'm not sure the exact torque spec, but a nice hand-tight snug is always good. And again, always follow your electrical codes. Same thing with your neutral. Lastly, your hot wire. Now, curl that wire up. And push the outlet in the box. A quick tip, use your outlet tester, plug it in, to kind of bend that outlet the way you want it to go, and make it nice and flush with the wall. Use our level. So the outlet's installed. I quickly touched up the paint around it and let it dry. So now let's put the cover on and move on to the next outlet. Now this is a highly debated topic in the electrical world. Do you put your screws horizontal or do you put them vertical? I like them horizontal. Other people like them vertical. It's all a preference thing. So now we're on the other outlet. So to install this one, I'm going to pop a hole on this side and fish my wire through. I'm also going to cut some excess wire off here, just because I'm going to need some extra wire here in a second, and that was kind of long. Now let's push the box in. Again, this is an old work box. So it has those 2 tabs that stick out. Now, this is another highly debated topic in the electrical field, and that is, do you pigtail an outlet when you have 2 wires coming in, or do you just directly splice it through the outlet? And what that means is outlets come with 2 neutral lugs and 2 hot lugs. So essentially, if you have 2 neutral wires and 2 hot wires coming in, you can just hook them directly to the outlet and have it feed power through the outlet and out. When it comes to your ground, there's only 1 single lug, and that's usually always how it is. So these wires will always need to be spliced together. Now personally, I think it depends on the situation, but for me in this case, and to make it easy, I'm not going to splice these wires together, and I'm just going to feed them through the outlet. First thing we need to do is splice our grounds together, and that's where that extra ground wire comes in that I cut off. Put the 3 wires together. I got this little tool that turns the wires together. Whoops. Again, some people don't like this tool, but I think it does a really good job. I'm gonna put this other tool on, which helps sink the wire nut on. And just like that, you have a good connection with a wire nut. Now we're gonna tuck this ground wire back in, pushing it all as far back as we can get it. We'll leave this wire hanging out. And now it's kind of a rinse and repeat from what we did with the other outlet. Now all our wires are looped around. Now we just got to hook them to the appropriate lugs. Real quick, I know some of you are going to ask, does it matter if this black wire coming off the one wire and the neutral coming off a different wire are on that same plane? Technically, no, it doesn't matter, but I think it's good practice to hook them up on the same plane. Hopefully that made sense. Everything's all snug with this one. We'll push this back in. Again, we got more wires now in this box, so it makes it a little more difficult to push in, especially with that 12 gauge wire. Just like that, it's nice and snug. We'll put that cover plate on and we'll put the screw in. Now we just got to turn the power on and test the outlets with the outlet tester, and we'll be done. And one thing I do want to mention real quick, I know the electricians are going to come after me for this. This is technically a 15 amp outlet when I'm using 20 amp wire on a 20 amp breaker. I know that, I'm well aware. I've never had an inspector say anything to me about using a 15 amp outlet with 20 gauge wire. I'm not sure the code on that, so please I recommend looking that up in your locality. Now I need to go turn that breaker on, and both these orange lights should be on the tester, which means I wired it correctly and it's good. I'll also test the GFI with the tester part, make sure that it trips. 2 lights are on, meaning it's wired good. Let's test the GFI. Trip the GFI, I'm going to reset it up top. Good to go. Let's test the other one. Plugged in, 2 lights. GFI tripped, I'll reset it. Always check the top one as well. 2 lights. GFI tripped, I'll reset it and we'll be good. Now I got to do some cleanup, and then I finally need to install the vacuum, which is why I installed this outlet. And just like that, for less than $100, you've installed and added a new outlet in your house, which can power whatever you want. I hope you guys learned a lot in this video. If there's any mistakes I made, please leave a comment down below pointing them out to me. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, again, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. As always, thanks for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And with that said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day.